Salve to Latin 1 students. Thank you guys for checking back in and keeping up with everything. We're getting ready for a quiz on chapter 15 this Friday, so I want to make sure you guys are ready for that. Today I wanted to do a quick fact of the day with you before we go over our homework from yesterday, which was exercise C, just to have some culture to do, and these facts may be on the quiz on Friday. So the other day I told you kind of a big fact, which is about Theseus and Ariadne and the Minotaur and all that. So today I picked a smaller one just to go over briefly with you here. And that fact that you should get in your fact of the day section of your binder is the thermopolium. The thermopolium, I'll tell you what that is. Maybe by looking at the root there, you can tell what the word has to do with. I'm not sure. That therma root there has to do with heat, right? Like a thermos. And then the end of that word, polium, comes from polis, which is the Greek word for a city. So what does this have to do with the thermopolium? Well, Thermopolium was basically a fast food restaurant in ancient Rome, right? A lot of people don't know they had these. Now, of course, we don't exactly mean like burgers or Taco Bell or something, but this meant food that was a little shop that people could go by. The food was already ready, and they could get some food to take with them and to have at home. Not everyone in ancient Rome had a kitchen. That was not a super common thing. And so to be able to get some hot food every once in a while when you saved up some money was a big thing. So the picture you're seeing here is a thermopolium at Pompeii. And what was happening here was you had these big bins that they were kind of built into the ground a little bit, which would make them hard to steal, but also would help with the heating and everything. And they're heated from a source down below here. And then there'd be different things in these. It could be meat or vegetables or soups or, whatever the owner of the establishment was cooking that day. So it's kind of cool. You come by, you see what you like, you take a look at them, and the owner will get you some, and then you take it with you. Usually the restaurants were the type of thing where you sat down and ate there like we have with restaurants today. You can see in the back there's some more um, containers here that might have other things in them. So it's basically a take and go, some hot food with you. The stairs here that are kind of eroded over time, you can see a little bit here. Probably the shopkeeper. It was very common for the shopkeeper to kind of live right by their store, right above it, sometimes in a little apartment above the store. That would allow you to get to work super quickly and also protect your store from thieves and things like that if you live right above it. So really common to do that. A different thermopolium, we see a couple of these at Pompeii and even Herculaneum, which is one of the other cities covered by Mount Vesuvius. This is another one here. You can see the places where the food would be kept. This one, the shop owner actually put some nice decorations on the wall to kind of give their patrons something to look at and maybe some motivation to come in and see. And you see a beautiful, what's called a fresco painting here. You see the snakes at the bottom, really, really kind of intriguing. And the reason these paintings are still so intact, so good, is because we talked about Pompeii and Herculaneum being basically sealed away from the weather for 1,500 years, so that paintings and things like that otherwise might have been washed away by erosion, weather, and rain, and dust, and everything, these things were not open to the air. So that's why it is in such great condition still. So pretty cool to think that the Romans, we sometimes think of the big things about the Romans, the battles and the grandeur that was Rome and the emperors and things like that, which are all really cool things to study. But sometimes it's cool to think about just the everyday people. These were people just like we are that had to do everyday things. They had families, they had loved ones, they had to eat, they had to go to the bathroom, they had to have jobs, right? So sometimes that's one of the reasons why going to Pompeii is pretty cool, because you can walk down the street, you see a bakery, you see an apartment, you see a restaurant. Like here, you see a laundry where they would do clean clothes and things like that. So sometimes it is cool to just look at some of the common, mundane, everyday things. And that's what thermopolium is, basically a restaurant to take away food. So that'll be our fact of the day that could pop up on the quiz. We also did the Theseus and Ariadne story. That might pop up on the quiz. And I also might put a question or two about the Roman baths assignment that I had to do, dealing specifically with the baths in England. So you want to look back over that assignment. I might put a question or two. It'd probably be something I take directly from the guide that I had you guys did and had you guys submit. So look over that too. I'm basically counting that kind of like a fact of the day for the quiz. Okay. Now, before we go over today's exercise, which is C, I gave this to you yesterday. You want to make sure you've tried these sentences, and I'm going to go over now and tell you how to translate them and some grammatical tips and everything. We are getting close to our quiz on Friday, so look over these closely. Pause it if you need to think about this sentence for a second. And once you get to the end, if you still see something, one or two things that didn't make perfect sense, please come and see me in my office hours and show me those, and I'll go over them with you and help you figure out your problems because I can't answer your questions directly right now. So definitely come by my office hours. For these sentences, you had to translate into Latin, of course, so that's kind of a big deal. You had to know your verbs, you had to know your nouns, you had to know your prepositions, you got to know kind of everything really well. So how did you do the first one? The first one was the teachers did not often look at the boys with great friendliness. So here's how I did this one. Magistri non saepe spectabunt pueros magna cum amacitia. Now, for all these sentences, one thing you want to remember is your word order might be a little different than mine. Word order in Latin doesn't matter that much. There's some little bits that matter, but in general, if you had spectabunt, the verb, at the end of the sentence or something, that would make no difference. It would be fine. But of course, the words themselves and the endings are the most crucial things to have correct. So let me go through what I did here. I made the subject teachers nominative. That's what you should always do, right? So this is the nominative plural of that word. This word is second declension. The teachers did not look. Now, as soon as you see the verb, you should be thinking, what tense should I make that verb? This tense here is perfect, and so spectabunt is the perfect third person plural, agreeing with teachers. So non saepe spectabunt. I made boys accusative because it's the direct object. And finally, this is one of our new constructions, with great friendliness. Now, this described how they did not look at the boys. And so anytime the preposition describes how something occurred or happened, this is the ablative of manner, okay? So with great friendliness. Now, why did I put the cum in parentheses? Well, that's just a reminder that when there's a adjective modifying the ablative of manner, the cum is optional. It may be there, it may not. So if you put magna cum amacitia, you are correct. If you put magna amacitia, you are correct as well. That's what the parentheses means, okay? If there's no adjective, the cum is mandatory, but here there is an adjective. So I just want to remind you that could definitely pop up on the quiz on Friday. How'd you do number 2? This one's a short one. The men of Rome fight with great diligence. Here's what I put. Viri Romani pugnate magna cum diligentia. Men of Rome, I made vocative. Why did I use the vocative ending? Because you're talking to them, you're addressing them. Viri Romani is the vocative plural. Now, some of you may have done something different. You could have even used a substantive here and just said Romani if you wanted to, right? So that'd be okay too, but I use the word for men here. Now, one thing is, I know of Rome sounds genitive, but remember, this adjective Romanus means Roman or of Rome. So you would not need to use the genitive there. This adjective would just need to agree in case with the noun. So vidi Romani, both nominative plural. Now, the verb I made imperative because you're telling them, you're ordering them, fight, pugnate. Notice how I use the plural imperative because it's talking to the men. And then finally, with great diligence, another ablative of manner, how you would fight, magna cum diligentia. And again, the cum is optional in the ablative manner when there's an adjective there. But notice how I made the words ablative. Okay, so we got that. Number 3, did the messenger give the battle signal on a trumpet? See if you did this one right. Look at what your errors might have been. I put deditne nuntius signum proeli tuba. And again, you might have had a different word order here, which is okay. I put the verb first. I made the verb perfect tense because that's what did is. Did give is perfect tense. And I made it third person plural because the messenger is the subject, which is third person plural. Messenger is the nominative because it's the subject of the sentence. And signum is accusative because it's the object of the sentence. Now, what did I do with proelion, battle? I made it genitive because the battle signal, another way of saying that is the signal of battle. So you can't just put both those words in the same case. So you have to make proely genitive to be like the signal of battle. It's kind of subordinate to it. And then finally, on a trumpet. What construction is this? You think about this. If you give a battle signal on a trumpet, you're using the trumpet to give a signal. So what construction should that be? Well, we call this ablative of means. Ablative of means. And this is not manner. It doesn't describe how the signal was given, but rather with what instrument or with what tool, right? So the difference with the ablative of means is that it never does take a preposition. So you simply need the word tuba, trumpet, in the ablative with no preposition. So that's why we don't need the word in or anything like that. If you put in for that, I understand, but that's not how that word works in Latin. In Latin only shows location. So tuba is the ablative. Now I do notice one little mistake here. I want to point it out to you. I meant to put a maker over this a because that would make the word ablative, and I forgot to do that or it didn't show up or something. So the tuba should have a maker to make it ablative. So make sure you have that on your paper. Okay. So that's all the details for number 3. Quator, number 4. There was a horse's body on the road. Okay, kind of a grisly one here. What did I come up with? Erat corpus equi invia. So there was, here's our verb sum in the imperfect. Now the body is the subject. Horses should be possessive. So this is genitive, but body, corpus, is nominative. Remember, this word is neuter, corpus, corporis, neuter meaning body. And then finally, on the road shows location. So it's adverb of a place where, in we are. Okay. Make sure you're learning really well your new vocabulary for this chapter. It's going to come in handy as we translate things in the homework and on the next quiz. So that is number 4. Hopefully it's explained. You can understand it. Number 5, the Spanish always used to fight with great boldness. So for this one, I said Hispani magna cum audacia semper pugnabant. And the Spanish, I had to use a substantive because we have an adjective meaning Spanish. So if you make it plural, it basically means the Spanish or the Spanish people. Hispani is nominative plural. Magna audacia or magna cum audacia is the adverb of a manner with great boldness. And then pugnabant is the imperfect verb because used to fight is an imperfect translation. So that's everything for number 5. And semper just means always. It's an adverb. Okay. Number 6, a great king in Germany was a friend and ally of the Roman people. So for this one, we have Rex Magnus. Both of these words are nominative, masculine, singular. They agree with each other. Why do they look a little different? You're probably thinking because they're from different declensions, right? So they do look different. And then in Germania, it's ablative place where. There's the ablative. Now, a very important part of this sentence is a great king was a friend and ally. The verb is was, which is a linking verb. So what should show up on the other side of a linking verb, on the predicate side of a linking verb? It should be nominative. We call that a predicate nominative. It's not an object because there is no action, but it's a predicate nominative. So notice how I made friend, amicus, et socius, ally, both nominative. And then finally, friend of the Roman people, I had to use genitive for of, Romani populi. These are both genitive, right? Again, there could be slight differences here. There's sometimes one little different way to say something. Those are the type of questions you can pop into my office hours and ask me, but I try to give you the best way I can think of to say it. But you might have little tweaks, especially in the word order. You could have some differences and still be correct. Okay. So number 7, the German forces had fought in the camp of the Romans. So here we have the German forces, Germanae Copiae, both nominative plural, in the camp, in Romanorum castris. Now remember the word castra has a little something unusual or notable about it. It's only plural. It's neuter plural, second declension. Even though it's the word camp, in Latin that word is plural, has plural endings. So that's where castris comes from. That's the ablative plural of that word. And then Romanorum is the genitive plural because it's the camp of the Romans. It's possessive and it's the substantive of that word for Roman. Finally, the verb is the forces had fought. So notice how I made the verb pluperfect for had fought, and I made it plural also because forces is plural. So there's a lot there in number 7 to look out for. Number 8, the journey to the Spanish town is long, but we shall walk with great speed. This one has a lot here. The new word for journey is iter, itinerus, neuter, meaning journey. That's one of our brand new words from this chapter. And so iter, to the town, ad Hispanum oppidum. That's the Spanish town. Now, what gender is iter? I just said it a second ago. Iter, itinerus, neuter. So any adjective modifying iter should be neuter. So est longum. Notice how I put longum here because this is neuter, agreeing with iter. But we shall walk with great speed. The verb here is future tense, shall walk. So ambulabimus, there's the future tense sign. And then finally, walk how? Walk with great speed. That's the ablative manner. It describes how. And so notice how I did ablative. Magna cum celeritate. This word is feminine. And again, I've said it a few times. I don't want you to miss this on the quiz. This word is an adjective. It's modifying the ablative manner. So the cum may or may not be there. Either one I would have counted correct in that instance. Okay. So we do have number 8 there. Hopefully you got it. For any of these, I encourage you, if you've missed something I say or you need to hear it again, go back, and that's the cool thing about a video. You can go back and pause it or listen to something again if you miss what I'm talking about. And number 9, the troops of Rome attacked the German camp with long weapons. For this one, I said, Copiae Romanae, castra Germana longis tellis oppugnavant. Now, the tricky part here is you might be thinking troops of Rome should be like the genitive of Rome, but the more natural way to say this would be Roman troops. Basically means the same thing. So that's why it's copiae Romani and not something like copiae Romae or something. So it's a little tricky. But anytime you see of Rome, you just would rather use the word Roman. That's how they would do it. So the Roman troops, copiae Romani, attacked. Let me peek at number 9 and see if I have a mistake here. I do notice a little mistake in my sentence. This happens. It's natural. I could pretend like I made it to see if you're paying attention and closely, but I won't do that. But there's just one letter that's off here. I want to see if you guys can find it. Which letter is off here? Attacked. What tense should that be? That should be perfect tense. And so the verb should be perfect tense. Opugnaverant. I accidentally made it pluperfect tense. This should be opugnaverunt. Just the wrong tense. So make sure you have a U here to make it perfect tense. And then finally, the camp is the direct object, so it should be accusative. Germana castra is accusative because this word is plural. Okay, castra we just talked about is always plural. And finally, attacked with what? Attacked with long weapons. This is not an ablative of manner, but it is an ablative of means because you're attacking with something, you're attacking with long weapons. So longis telis is what you want here. You cannot use a preposition with the ablative of means, so that's why it's just longis telis, both words in the ablative. And finally, why did you carry the grain to town in a wagon, Marcus? This one's a question. So it doesn't start with ne because the word is why. It starts with the word for why, which is cur. Okay. Did you carry? Portavisti. Notice how I made this perfect tense, and I also made it second person singular because you're talking to Marcus. Why did you carry? Grain is accusative. It's the direct object. And to the town is going to be the word odd, which means to, plus the accusative. What about wagon? Do we need the word in there? Carry the grain in a wagon. Well, it sounds like it at first, but if you're thinking about this, you're actually using the wagon to carry grain. It's an ablative of means, similar to the one we had in the previous sentence. So I just use caro, no preposition. It's the ablative of means. You actually would not want to use the word in here. I know it's a little tricky because you see it right here, you think in, but this is expressing means and not place. And so no preposition is needed. And finally, what is Marcus? You're addressing him, you're calling out to him in the sentence. So it is marque. What ending have I used here? This is the vocative ending because you're addressing him, and that's the case you use to address someone. Okay. So hopefully going over each of these just gives you an idea if you're doing it right, if you have some questions here, some problems. And again, any little things you didn't still quite understand, pop by my office hours and show me, and I can go over the sentence with you in more detail and respond to your questions directly. Okay. Make sure to be studying chapter 15, especially your vocab, especially how to decline these third declension neuter nouns in preparation for your quiz on Friday. The next few days, I will give you some practice and stuff to do to prepare for that quiz. I'd love to have an excellent quiz average on Friday. Okay. Hope you guys are doing very well. Don't hesitate to pop in to see me during my office hours, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for some quiz practice. Valete.